Suddenly we cannot expect them to be patient. We cannot expect them to be more tolerant, right? And this is leading to a lot of concerns in their mental health, right?
Suicide, depression is the next big epidemic to hit the world.
I prayed for death every day, every night.
Not being able to talk to anyone because I don't think anyone understood what I was experiencing.
हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स की रिसेंट रिपोर्ट्स बताती हैं कि डेलॉइट ने लास्ट मंथ एक सर्वे कंडक्ट किया जिसमें ये सामने आया दैट 80% ऑफ इंडियन वर्कफोर्स रिपोर्टेड मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज लास्ट ईयर। 80% से ज्यादा लोग
The pressure is different. It is not less or it is not more. It is different because in our time
WHO ने देश में राइजिंग स्ट्रेस लेवल्स को मापा और यूएसए और चाइना के साथ साथ इंडिया को वन ऑफ द मोस्ट डिप्रेस्ड कंट्रीज की श्रेणी में डाल दिया।
your basics right. Amit, that is really important. Eating well, sleeping well, minimum of 6 hours of sleep. It's important even before exams.
How does this complicated generation take on this pressure of the most important examination of their lives?
That's upcoming,
which is upcoming.
First is declutter. Right? Figure out what kind of a learner you are. Use that more. So Gen Z, Alpha and Beta, we are telling you the truth.
Welcome to episode 10 of the podcast with Amit Barwa. The board exams are very near, and today we have a very special guest, Miss Nikita Hazarika. This is where it all started. In fact, I wanted her to be my first guest, but wo ho nahi paya because of a few glitches. But I am really very glad that she accepted my invitation, and we are here in person and in her clinic and talking about mental health and how the Generation Z is coping up with the exam pressure. Miss Nikita Hazarika, a clinical psychologist and a dear friend, I am very glad that you accepted this invitation and you made time for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So Generation Z, a lot of people have been talking about it.
Yeah.
It's been making the news lately. You have been in a few news channels already talking about this.
Yes.
We can actually go on and talk about the issues and the kind of thing that this generation has and how different this generation is and stuff like that. But tell me or tell the audience, how do they cope up with so much of pressure and what is expected out of them in this board examination? Do they really need to be worried?
Okay, so maybe I'll take that question in two parts. I'll answer that in two parts. So the first part is I feel it's not easy to be them, and like I was talking to you previously as well, that maybe millennials, boomers, we have seen the transition of social media technology, right? But for this generation, I feel they were born with it. So for them, technology, social media, Instagram, Facebook is normal. It's way of life, right? And when we are indulging ourselves into social media, right? What do we see? We are constantly consuming content and information with a click of a button, and we are constantly scrolling, right? So biologically, there's something called dopamine hit or rush that we are experiencing instantly, right? In our times, we waited for things to happen, right? So we could value it better. But right now, whatever we want, everything is right there, right? So when this happens, in our nervous system also, there will be some kind of decrease in patience, in tolerance as well. What is happening to this generation, I feel, is they are suffering from something called lack of distress tolerance, and it's not their fault. Right? Suddenly, we cannot expect them to be patient. We cannot expect them to be more tolerant. Right? And this is leading to a lot of concerns in their mental health, right? And the second part of your question, that board exam is right here, I would like to say that since we have transitioned in generations right now, the pressure is different. It is not less or it is not more, it is different, because in our times, you know what board exams were. People would come home to, maybe talk to us right before our exams with
right.
pens and gifts.
Right, right.
But right now, the competition is mostly again about a comparison. In educational institutes, also, you have cutoffs that are really high, right? And in order to seek better education, right, children are suffering. They want to get into good colleges, right? And parents are also not having so much time to educate and make them understand that this is not end of life, this is just a phase of life, right? So the importance in itself, how maybe our communities or society have highlighted board exam is the most important thing. I think it was a lie in our times also. They said that you give your 10th,
Correct.
that's the
Correct.
most
That's the
important
most
thing.
important.
Then
Right,
after that
right,
they
right.
said that okay,
Class
it's
12
class
is the most
12.
important. Correct.
And now we realize that
वो
no,
तो कुछ
it's
था ही
going
नहीं,
on. Yeah,
वो
it's
तो कुछ
going
था ही नहीं.
on. Yeah.
Exactly. The real thing, the real study is actually after class 12.
Yes.
That's when the real
yes.
life hits you. You
So
know?
Gen Z, Alpha and Beta, we are telling you the truth.
Truth be
Yes.
told in their lingo.
Yeah.
Don't you think that delayed gratification, a very right word that you spoke on,
Yes.
the
And
this
you got it
particular
right,
trend,
the term, yeah.
this particular trend, how is their fault? It's not like you've actually rightly pointed out. It's not their fault
No.
to begin with.
No.
I think our generation used this particular generation to yield some money out of it. It's a very controversial statement to be
Yeah.
putting, but who introduced reels to them? 16 seconds. Our attention span is decreasing.
Yes.
And-
even us.
And the other term that you used previously, maybe doom
Scrolling. Yeah. Even I got to know about this new term. Yeah.
So we introduced that to them. We, as in a few influential figures,
Yeah.
put this thing into them. So it's not their fault. But how do they cope up with this? How that this is an issue? Your attention span is decreasing. It brings him back to a very interesting scenario that I actually faced. हुआ क्या था कि immersion ground से मैं दुर्गा पूजा का टाइम था.
Okay.
So immersion ground से मैं वापस जा रहा था.
Okay.
तो बस में बैठा and the DJ is this time अभी मतलब हमारा टाइम चला गया. This is when I understood when DJ वाला section में हम नहीं बैठ रहे थे बल्कि बच्चे बैठ रहे थे वहाँ पे.
Okay.
तो बच्चे ने गाना चलाया and I noticed a very interesting trend. वो बच्चे हैं ना जो रील में हुक बजता है ना बस वही हुक सुनता है एंड देन देयर इज अ चेंज. हमारे टाइम में हम वो हुक सुनने के लिए ना पूरा गाना सुना करते थे. आज के डेट में
we could wait.
Yeah. This is a process, ups and downs. ये बच्चे नहीं समझ रहे. What I feel is they want that hit.
Very minute
They want that
observation
hit.
this is. Huh?
And they get it and that's it and then they move on.
Right.
So this is a trend that is influenced by the other generation, and now it's very easy for us to come and be like this generation does not have this that attention hai nahi itna. Who's responsible for that, and how do we deal with this issue? How do we make this better? Or exam ke liye you have to read that entire book. You cannot be reading highlights.
Yeah.
How do we get this to them?
And now we have AI, Chat GPT. You just have to write down. It's going to answer everything.
Correct.
So basically, okay, I'm coming to your question. Very, very important also to understand this. See, we can't avoid social media. We cannot avoid technology and our gadgets. Because I keep meeting parents, their complaint is that, our kid is constantly on the phone, or they are gaming, or they are watching OTT, right? First of all, we are doing the same.
Correct.
Right? So kids imitate. That is social learning theory,
Right,
what it
right.
says, right? So a child is constantly following their role models, from the time they are born.
Correct.
Right. So suddenly you cannot just say that, hey, like, they do not have control. We are the nurturers, providers. So we are stimulating them in the environment. That's one. Second is, we also need to become better observers as providers and nurturers so that we can facilitate the process of the change that we want to see. Right? So if we are not observers and we are constantly on our phone and complaining and cribbing and not giving time to our children, to this generation, change is not going to come.
Correct.
Right? So we have to give them time. We have to be active, non-judgmental listeners, which we are not. We don't listen to them, we judge. Right? Second.
Right.
No, this is third, I think. Yeah. Third would be, only way out is, I think we have to categorically distribute our time in the real and the real world. Right? Reels are important, I understand. Today we are doing this podcast, we will have reels out of it, right? It's going to reach many Gen Z audience as well. So it's important, I get it. As a mental health professional also, I am struggling to be relevant over social media. We can't avoid it, okay? But we need to understand the balance. So if I am on a podcast with you today, right, after this my phone is going to be in my bag. I'm going back to my family. We are going to maybe go and see a singer perform tonight. We are going to have a good meal, go to bed. Tomorrow morning, going for a walk. Right? What I'm trying to say here is that we need a balance. We need a particular time across the day when we are going to be in touch with reality, right? With nature, with our social circles. We'll talk, we'll have conversations, we'll cook food, right? We are going to enjoy a movie, and we are also going to be in our phones. We are going to watch OTT. So if we can divide that time, I think that's how we are going to create some balance. It cannot be this or that. It has to be this and that.
Correct. Correct. I think you pointed out a very pertinent issue that the kids actually learn from their role models.
Yes.
Young kids usually have. I've seen a lot of kids who are actually given just this cell phone कि आप ले लो खाना खा लो. I think that is where it all starts.
Yes.
मेरे को खाना खिलाना है. The easiest way out is to distract that kid, and these kids are getting used to shows like Cocomelon, if I'm not mistaken, and that
Peppa Pig.
That probably uses a lot of quick cuts. So when there are quick cuts, the kid cannot focus for something for a prolonged period
span
of
of
time.
time, yeah.
So there are proper research that went inside it, and the reason why they have been, just like the way you pointed out, dopamine hit का जो वो urge है ना, वो एकदम बचपन से दिलाया जाता है कि you will have an instant hit of dopamine every single time that you do that. और ये फिर एक तो हम सिखा रहे हैं इन बच्चों को, and second, yes, I mean, हमारे टाइम में जब क्रिकेट मैच होता था, I remember the entire family coming and sitting down under one roof, of course, under that same room and watching a cricket match, a full-length cricket match together.
Yeah.
आज के time में we are all there, but you know, कोई अपने bedroom में, कोई drawing room में, कोई अपने और एक bedroom में, and they are watching the same match, but not together. TV has anyway come to, it feels like it's coming to an end, because of the new media, so to say,
Yeah.
the cell phone, the internet, and anything that is able to serve the internet. So how will this generation learn? And the pressure that these guys have on top of it, the expectations that they need to land, the kind of issues that they bring up to you, and what exactly do they need to do so that they cater to the issue and also balance their life so that they can lead a better healthy life.
Again, two parts, okay? I'll answer that in two parts. First part, you mentioned rightly that, our role models, what are we doing as role models is we are putting an iPad right? While feeding them also. Babies, now they have concerns with they don't eat food without the iPad or watching something, right? They have to watch constant stimulation. So where does it start from first? It starts from our lack of patience as well, right? So let's say today I am in a bandwidth to spend a lot of time. So that day I might be feeding the child without any stimulation. Let's say I have to hurry somewhere. So let's put the iPad.
Okay.
Now what happens to a child basically? So I am quoting behaviorism, a school of thought here. What it says is that, you know, everything is a learning process. Our behavior is it's learned, right? But it will only be learned, it will be continued when it is reinforced. Now let's say, okay, today I did the mistake of, you know, bringing the iPad. Okay, so the second time the child wants it, the child is not having it, so wants the iPad. What we do is, because we do not want to see the reaction of the child, that it's crying, she or he is crying, we are like, okay, we don't have the patience, please don't cry, here, take it.
Correct.
We've reinforced the crying behavior here. We don't want to see the reaction, right? So what happens with reinforcement is, it can be anything. Like if I am aiding it, that behavior continues. The child doesn't know that crying is a good behavior, bad behavior, irritating behavior. The child now learns that, okay, when I cry, I get, right? It's
Right.
reinforcement, and that behavior is going to continue. But what happens in the previous generations? I am not for punishment. Punishment was something that was not okay in our generation, but there was the ability of the authority figure of saying a no. We would cry, we would sulk, we would feel bad, but we are not going to get it.
Correct.
Right? So our reinforcement was also somewhat a negative reinforcement around that time, because desirable behavior is only going to continue, you know, when you are reinforcing it positively or negatively. Now that's not been done. Too many options, parents do not have patience. दे दो, वो चिल्ला रहा है, child is crying in the shop, I want this chips का packet,
Correct.
rolling on the floor, no, scene create हो गया, भैया आप ले लो ये, ठीक है? तो child will roll again.
Absolutely.
So this is the first part. Second part, like you said, how are we going to now deal with this entire crisis, that we are not watching TV shows together, everyone is in their respective rooms. This is a conscious decision, Amit. This will not, you know, get erased from, from today's time, all of a sudden on its own. It's a conscious decision that each family has to make. That okay, this is the time, this is every evening at 6 after we are back from work, movie time.
Right.
Or putting it on WhatsApp group itself, that hey, like tonight we have to watch India's match together.
Correct.
No phones, popcorns on board, and we are going to sit as a family. After that you do whatever. But this conscious decision has to come from the generation before Gen Z also. Gen Z cannot say you come, because they are not used to taking that initiative, right? Once we facilitate this process, when we give a platform that okay, hey, this is what we want as a family. What about you? Like, you know, you need your social media time. We'll make time for that as well. But please take ours also. No, we want this. This generation wants this. So give and take. Conscious decision. It will not happen like if we crib. हमने ऐसा किया था हमारे ज़माने में. Kids are like, why are you putting guilt?
Exactly.
They call it guilt tripping, right? So that's a conscious decision, and we have to bring children on board to understand what they also think. How would they also make the decision?
Right.
Because children from Gen Z, you know, the individuals from Gen Z, they are very, they give value to expression, their own expression. They have individual needs, right? So they are very vocal about it. We need to respect and understand that. We cannot dominate them by putting our viewpoints and saying you just have to follow it. It has to be a transaction. And I feel that can work out.
So you mean to say give them their space
Space.
and take the initiative to come and spend some time together so that
Yeah.
they learn
Yeah.
family bonding and
Listen to them, have a transaction, build a midpoint. It cannot be हमें ये चाहिए, तुम्हें ये करना होगा.
right.
It has to
right.
be okay, तुम ये करोगे, तुम्हारा भी हम करेंगे.
So when does that start? From a very early age?
Early,
I
yeah,
believe?
yeah. It has to because now generation beta is here from this year, right? It's going to be massive change, and kids respond from a very, very tender age. From the time I have conceived, the fetus can actually, understand, hear, and absorb. It's a sponge.
Right.
It's like a sponge. So from a tender age, we have to have that balance. We cannot use how we were raised.
Right.
Same format will not work right now, even if you do not like it.
So it's like the kind of content, say the mother consumes. Say she's scrolling, she's watching a film, reading a book. Okay, so all of these things actually matter.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
How do we actually deal with a situation where you go to any place, every other individual puts their head down and keeps on scrolling on their cell phone? It's prevalent across families at this
Yeah.
point in time. You say it's a conscious choice, but I also see and feel that they have been wired into it and now they are addicted. There was a meme that went viral. I don't remember the exact year, but it had their heads down. People had their heads down and they were scrolling. So we are being controlled by the machines.
Yes.
To an extent,
Yes.
to a degree, yes, at this point in time, because our shopping behavior, what our likes and dislikes are being controlled by the kind of messages that we consume. And it's taking a toll because kids learn from their parents. That's what you said. And parents are day in and day out on their cell phones.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that? What do you think needs to be done? And how are these kids then supposed to behave, react, and deliver in that scenario?
Again, it's a two-way process, like you already mentioned, right? So we as a generation, even boomers, again, I feel it's not our fault also. Now when I see my mother, father, they're retired now. Everything, when they were retiring also, the last year when they were working, even their work was uploaded on WhatsApp. They cannot switch off their phones because some file will be sent there, some document will come. So they're constantly they're frazzled how to handle it, right? I've seen my mother who is not able to have a conversation, while scrolling Facebook because she's not able to multitask. Okay? But kids right now, like I said, they're born with social media, they're good at it.
Right.
But if we are talking about it today, if parents themselves are, saying that, they have a problem with their children constantly being on phones, I previously already mentioned about it, that it has to be a conscious decision here again. We have to set certain rules and boundaries of when, where we are going to use our phones. Even when we go on dates, when I go out with my spouse, sometimes it does happen to us also unknowingly. It's not that we don't want to talk to each other and we don't love each other. Unknowingly, we just start scrolling, इसको देख लेते हैं.
Right.
Even we are not
और
understanding.
थोड़ा सा देख लेते
हाँ
हैं,
देख
मजा आ
लेते
रहा
हैं,
है।
हाँ मजा आ रहा है कि किसी ने मैसेज भेजा, अभी रिप्लाई करना है. I am driving, there is a tongue and my eyes goes there and I'm like, okay, देख लेते हैं, 1 minute देख लेते हैं. Right? It's happening to me as well.
There's information overload.
Overload. Right? So we are talking about it. We can become conscious and mindful about it, and we can regulate it. We just cannot keep complaining about it. Secondly, there are terms now being used called social media detox.
Correct.
Right? We are deactivating our accounts. Some of us are not on social media. Even Gen Z is aware about it. I talk to them,
I think
right?
they're more aware
Yes.
about all of these
Yeah.
issues than we are to
Yes,
a certain degree.
yes.
Because I've learned like
They're
a lot
tired.
of terms from these Gen Z kids.
Yeah. Because you're overwhelmed also, right? There is constant social comparison there, and social media deceives. Everyone is
Absolutely.
putting up their best versions there.
Exactly,
Right? You're
exactly.
constantly stimulated by the number of likes and views you have. You know, what do you think? The social media people who are actually curating these apps, they have psychologists on board.
Right.
You know, understanding emotions and how to regulate the psychology and the psyche of viewers.
What works, what does not
Yeah.
work.
So, see, if there are terms, new age terms like social media detox, that means people have started realizing also, even this generation. But we need to take conscious steps, Amit.
Correct.
It has to be a conscious decision that we have to regulate the time we are spending. Now we have apps inbuilt. You know, I think there are some buttons.
Well-being, social
Yeah,
well-being.
yeah. We have these things where they constantly keep telling us this is your screen time.
Correct, correct. Digital well-being.
Yeah, and then you can also put sleep mode on, and
Correct,
they
correct,
remind
correct.
us that
Wind up.
right? So technology is also helpful at times, isn't it?
Right.
It's giving us reminders. We
It's a
don't need
very-
humans.
Isn't it very narcissistic to an extent where
Hmm.
it then it also tells you that okay, we are your saviors.
Yeah, but what to do? It's inevitable. So see, that's why I said as a professional, I feel we cannot be in a black and white world.
Correct.
It is not this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. We live in a gray area. It's imperfect.
I feel very sad for this generation
Hmm.
as well, no? Because they are under such pressure and scrutiny because they have undue pressure on them because the entire world is at the click of their hands.
Yeah,
Click of their fingers in fact.
yeah. And
So-
too many options.
और इतना ज़्यादा comparison. Even their parents are comparing कि मेरे sister की बुआ की बेटी को इतना मिला आपको क्यों नहीं? How do they deal with such pressure? And पढ़ेगा कैसे और क्या पढ़ेगा? Because there's so much to read on. Just like the way we just a while ago we mentioned about information overload.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
See, again, Amit, I might beg to differ here in terms of social comparison was even there in our times. शर्मा जी की बेटी ने इतना स्कोर किया, तुमने क्यों नहीं किया? वो लोग अभी उठ गए हैं, पढ़ रहे हैं, तुम लोग क्यों नहीं पढ़ रहे, उठ जाओ. Right, so constantly we had guilt induced and we would function based on that. So that remains. So as a community, as human beings, we cannot be away from comparisons. That's bound to happen. Okay, that will happen. Right, but if we know that is damaging, we can work on it, right?
Correct.
Right, we can work on it when we know that it's damaging, it is creating pressure. All of us, all generations know what's going on everywhere. There are suicide rates surging up, there is some kind of self-harm, like I said. We know these things are happening, it's prevalent. Right, so when we are saying or talking about it, what is stopping us? If we know that we are doing certain things that are creating pressure, how can we take a step back? But again, one more thing that I would like to maybe highlight here. It cannot be again this or that, like I said. It cannot be कि हम एकदम ही pressure नहीं देंगे. This is also a problem. I have seen parents calling themselves as friends. We have to be friends with our children.
Correct.
No boundaries. When you become a friend with your child, how do you also expect the child to listen to you or comply to you sometimes? That boundary needs to be little bit well defined. Second is, we should not be putting pressure, I understand, but completely not, supervising what they are doing, completely saying that pressure to hum nahi dalenge, जो भी करना है करो, that will again fall in negligent parenting, or you are afraid of your children, right? Then also the child will be misguided. They do not know whom to follow, how to regulate. So midpoint again, transactions we need to do through communication. We need to come to a space where there is balance, where I supervise, I reinforce when you listen to me, right? By doing things that you like doing. Okay, you like watching anime. What's that? Can we also come and watch with you? But what we do as Indian parents, they watch this anime constantly inside the room, constantly depressed. This is what I get from parents, right? But how about understanding? There are many, many beautiful stories I have got to know from my young clients, what anime has to also say, right? Everything cannot be bad or good. So, regulation. We are maybe not able to understand how to regulate.
This brings me to a very interesting point in this conversation where media is involved. Because films somehow tend to set the public agenda. Of course, the news media does that, the daily agenda. But films, on the other hand, sets the agenda for the younger generation on a greater extent.
Yes.
This generation has seen a lot of matured content.
Yeah.
With the rise of OTT, a lot.
No filter. Yeah.
Absolutely. No filter. I'm actually pro no filter, of course. But the no filter.
No filter for maybe
no
a certain. No censor.
No censors. but it has its own issues. I remember watching 13 Reasons Why, Netflix. I was disturbed after watching that. I was pretty matured by that time. I think I was 26, 27 when I watched it. And it was disturbing. It was very disturbing. I remember watching Mirzapur for the first time. I think that's when I got used to violence on screen.
Very gory,
इसके पहले मुझे, violence triggered me to a certain degree. But now I've normalized violence. This generation, I think, glorifies, again, it's a very controversial statement, but it glorifies on sadness. And it's not this generation's fault either. अगर मैं ऐसा नहीं बोलूँ तो they'll
bash you.
Absolutely. But it's not their fault, because I've seen Shakespeare do it. I've seen a lot of great artists do it. Haven't they done that?
Yeah, Melancholy, Ghazal.
What were their plays about? How did their characters enact sadness or depict sadness? The kind of art that they did. They always romanticized sadness.
Yeah.
The part here, the issue here at this point is actually the 16-second reels and the way the algorithm tracks you down. So
you'll know better about algorithm.
It is constantly bombarding you with the messages that you react or engage with.
Yes.
So every single time I'll reinforce you with that same state of mind, thought, and your entire mindset will be bent towards it.
So can I just add something here?
Right,
since you're already saying that you're playing with the psyche, right? You're playing things that probably constantly stimulates that kind of content. So in psychology, there is a term called negativity bias, right? So we humans tend to maybe get carried away, or we are inclined towards negative content. Why do you think sensationalism in media now, or from whenever, all the news channels we are watching, the content we are consuming, why do you think we are constantly selling news that is negative? Because it's playing on the negativity bias, it's a cognitive bias.
Correct.
Isn't it?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So that kind of content is getting you TRP also.
Absolutely.
Right? That's business. That's how it functions. So I feel it's a trap right now.
It is.
It's a trap.
It is. You need to get out of it. For me, I am a student of journalism, and again a very controversial statement. मैं news नहीं देखता. मैं news नहीं देखता because I think I like to consume news from YouTube. Again, news as in I like researched news. I don't
Right.
want to watch anything which is exclusive, which is breaking and repeating the same.
So, and there
message
needs to
again
be
and
some
again.
kind of
Anyway.
balance, Amit. Like if we are talking about crime, we are reporting crime, we are talking about what didn't work out and this accident has happened. We also, as media houses, as people from media, we need to also show things that have worked out, things that are also doing well. You cannot completely just show positive news. I understand, we are human beings, okay? We need to be in a gray area. That's how it is, right? So if even on newspapers, first thing in the morning, first page cannot be about ye hadsa, wo hadsa, this has happened, this has happened, right?
Sad, no? It makes
Have
it
a
very sad.
balance. Have a balance. That's all we can do. Have both kind of content. If you're constantly playing on sensationalism, right? Where are we heading towards? Where is humanity going towards?
I don't know. It's very difficult.
So we cannot keep blaming the viewers who are consuming it. We are part of that society. Our kids, our children, future generations, all part of it. So we cannot just say that they are consuming crime. OTT is making it available. So if supervision can be regulated, that's the only thing we can do. Regulating what kind of content. I'm not saying that that's completely going to eradicate the problem, because
Correct.
they can go elsewhere and watch it also. But as parents, as supervisors, maximum we could do that. And I think from media also you will know better. They have these adult rated
Correct.
UA mention.
The certificates, once it's certified,
Yeah.
it's like that
Yeah.
again goes to a censor body, and then the censor
Yes,
decides
yes.
on the certification that they receive.
Yes.
But again, I am not really pro censor and stuff like that, so that there is a different issue. But again, when we
Okay.
come down to OTT, what happens is it's not like broadcasting medium. Broadcast, you have to watch that. There's
Okay.
no other choice, right?
Okay.
Because when you're switching on to ABP or ZTV, Sony, whatever channel you switch to, you have to watch that content that's being broadcasted.
Yes.
You don't have a choice that मैं Sony में इतने बजे मैं
ये
कुछ
देख
और
लेंगे. हाँ,
देखूंगा.
I
You don't
got
have
you.
that
I
choice.
got you. हाँ.
But YouTube में 9 बजे या 9:15 में आप क्या देखोगे, that's your choice. It's
Yes,
completely
yes,
your choice.
yes.
So यहाँ पे that the point that you're making कि क्या देखें क्या नहीं देखें, you're just talking about that, right? So there these viewers are making a conscious choice to watch 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
इसको देख के मुझे बहुत खराब लग रहा है, मैं देखूंगा. मुझे there was this term, there was this trend, in fact, literally me, or this character is literally me. So there was this trend probably 3-4 years ago, जहाँ पे these people were coming up and they were saying कि they could relate to a very gory or a very problematic character, and they could literally feel that they were being enacted through that character.
It was very relatable.
Very
you're saying.
relatable. Suicide cases have increased. Self-harm, suicides. Assam, I think I read it through your article. You wrote extensively on that. I think 2000, after the lockdown, pre-lockdown and post-lockdown.
Yes.
There's a very stark increase in self-harm and suicides. I think every day we are losing 2 lives due to that. Conscious choice of that particular content, the amount of content that you have, you're consciously choosing to watch that, and then the lives being taken. Do you think there's a link that we are missing to spot?
Definitely, what you're trying to say, I'm understanding that, okay, like, are we, maybe not seeing what we are supposed to see? Is there some kind of a blind spot there?
Yeah.
Right. But again, Amit, don't you think that's like a gray area? Do you think,
That's exactly why
it's a gray area, right? Because, like you said, that we are consciously making a decision of watching such kind of shows. But like I mentioned previously, our psychology runs with negativity bias. We are constantly attracted towards negativity.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So now, like I again mentioned earlier, is that if we are consciously making a decision of watching such content, I can also consciously take a backseat. So let's say you watched
पर मुझे
that
मजा आ रहा है ना,
नहीं मजा आ रहा है,
मुझे वो गिल्ट देख के या
हाँ.
गिल्ट नहीं देख के मुझे वो दर्द देख के भी मजा आ रहा है, बिकॉज मुझे तो कोई समझ ही नहीं पाता है इस दुनिया में. तो मैं अपने उस कैरेक्टर को देख के अपने आप को प्लेस करके रिलेट करके मेरे को वो मजा आ रहा है देख के, आई विल वॉच इट.
So are you talking about which generation?
Generation? I'm trying to talk on their
about
behalf.
on their behalf. Yeah, आपको मजा आ रहा है. Okay, fine.
हाँ.
So
watch that content because मैं तो किसी से बात भी नहीं करता और मुझे लगता है कि मैं रिलेट कर पा रहा हूँ.
तो अगर आप बोल रहे हो बात नहीं करता,
right.
maybe there we could play a role.
Maybe.
Right? Maybe we could ask them that, hey, like, yeah, I know that show is really interesting and you relate. Take a 1 hour break, come with us. We'll also watch something different, right? Okay, and then you go back. So what is happening again, what I'm trying to, maybe highlight here,
Correct.
black or white, we are constantly either wanting to stay in the black or we are saying that, hey, let's go to the white. Can't happen.
There's a great
Can't happen. It's not possible in today's world. It's not going to be any different in the upcoming years as well, Amit. Because after OTT, right, as adults, we also are liking, the kind of character roles people are playing, right? We are actually enjoying watching such shows also, right? But as adults, we also understand that if I have felt, uncomfortable watching this, I'll take a break. Maybe I'm going to watch something light. I have an option, right? Children might not be that conscious. Who can educate them? Us. Who can facilitate that process? Us. Because by the time they realize, by the time they come to our age group, they would have consumed more than us. For us, we know that, okay, we have watched a hangama in Bollywood. It's still my favorite Bollywood comedy, right? I think people might find it really stupid in today's time because, humor has taken its own shape in today's time, right? But they do not know that difference. They do not know the simple things of life. It's complex for them. But who is going to give them that bite and understanding? Us only, the previous generation.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So maybe that's how we can regulate the grey space. But the grey space remains. It's difficult for previous generations. It is difficult for the upcoming generations also to fill that grey space. We cannot be in black or white.
It cannot be in black or white. But do you think the way we read our content, the way we read our books, in fact, for exams, are changing? Will this generation be more dependent on video lessons rather than books and letters?
That's also based on availability, right? We have Kindle now. We are reading books on Kindle, on iPads, right?
Correct.
When did the transition happen?
And that's very interesting. That's a very interesting point that you're bringing on the table.
Yeah.
You know how Kindle marketed itself?
No, I don't know.
It's very interesting because this is a device which can read books. E-books.
E-books, yeah.
You can read e-books on a cell
Yeah,
phone. You can
yeah,
read
yeah.
e-books on a tab.
Yeah,
You can
yeah,
do that.
yeah.
But it's very distracting because there's a notification here and there every
That's going to
single
keep
time.
coming.
And it's going to distract you. I tried doing that. Reading something on a desktop. Oh my god, it's terrible. It's a very bad experience. Kindle, how did Kindle market itself? There's no distractions. It's of course e-paper, e-ink and all of that. Right? It's very friendly to your eyes, very soft, very nice to use and stuff like that. But there's no distraction, so you can actually read it like a book. Correct. But don't you think every other treatment that we had, every other the way we thought or went about our exams is changing. I took a recent liking for Mahabharata, mythology. I could read. Previously, I would I would have only had the option to read the particular epic. But at this point in time, I also have the video content at my disposal. Again, they say that necessarily it's not always the right derivation of the story, and a lot of things have changed for the TV audience, TV views. But it's the same with write-ups. It's to an extent it's the same with all books and stuff too, right? It changes every single time somebody else adopts it and writes it in their own style. So there's always a portion of generation gap, and there's also generation loss, so to say, and then it always changes to a certain degree. Now the video content is a ball changer to a greater extent, and it is changing the way things have changed, and it's not like the way it used to be to a greater degree. And do you think that the future is in the digital space, and our education system also needs to reevaluate how it actually went about and taught these young kids?
Change is the only constant, right? So not the future generation, the change has already begun. Digitalization, consuming things virtually has already begun. See, learning, we learn as human beings from our senses, right? So some people learn visually, some people are great auditory learners. I'm one of them. I can actually remember things, right? Few people remember things by using sensory things, right? I don't see anything bad in that as far as a generation is able to consume good and bad in their own space, right? Because there are bookstores still, there are Kindles still. Now what is happening now, I'll just give an example from my family. My mom loves reading books, right? And we have like a mini library at home. So definitely she loves the touch of the paper, the smell, and she's used to that, right? After I got my job, because since she likes reading, I'm like, Ma, like, can I gift you a Kindle, right? So I maybe for once made her try it out. She didn't like it, right? Because she got the taste of books, right? That was her first option. Now, children from this generation, if we are not handing books on their hands, if we are handing over Kindles and iPads, that is their first, that's their comfort. If educational institutes, if families, if book clubs, if cafes can have both options, this time to this time in school, we have to go to the library, use books. This time at home, we are reading books, this time for Kindle. Because you cannot tell this generation, hey, you know what, we used to love writing letters and we want you to love it too. They don't understand it, Amit. Now, recently, my brother, he loves photography. He has launched this photo booth, right? It's a Gen Z concept. They are loving it. You're getting, to click photos in their own filters and whatever, and you're getting printouts of photographs. Now I asked him that question that, hey, like, everything is digitalized. We can aram se take a soft copy and everything is in our phone. Why do we require it? But Gen Z loves it. We are going back to Polaroids. We have these cameras in stacks. I have one. He has a Polaroid, and we are like, hey, like, we want to treasure these. We have mood boards where we are actually wanting to place our Polaroids. Hard copy.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
I don't think this generation does not value things that we experienced. We have to give them the taste of it, and they can decide.
I think I also think that this particular generation shows interest in things that the other generation loops into. Just like
Yes.
how there's a very interesting ad by 5 Star that got my attention. That spoke on how when the uncles started joining Facebook, the Gen Z started declining. The usage of Facebook started declining. Similarly, when the uncles they
got you.
nominated that particular. There's a Destroy the Valentine's campaign by 5 Star. It's a very interesting campaign.
Okay.
I really love that
Okay.
idea.
Okay.
So that's how they started. Once the uncles joined in the Facebook trend, it dropped. The Gen Z's
Z, huh.
Gen Z started dropping on that
Yes,
thing,
huh.
on the usage. Similarly with skinny jeans. Once uncles got into that trend, Gen Z's
Wearing
you
those
see,
baggy,
I think
it's
those
back.
baggy
It's back,
jeans,
yeah.
baggy jeans, baggy
Yes,
trousers
yes.
are back. Similarly, there was this YOLO culture and stuff. As soon as the older generation started hopping in, the younger generation opted out of it. It's a very similar trend with the Polaroid,
Yeah,
with
yes,
the camera
yes.
thing. I mean, it's very as soon as the other generation started accepting that.
Such a
the
nice
change, and then
observation, Amit. Right. Even I am thinking, yeah, thought provoking.
I think that's the law of nature, because what is in is out, what is out is
Yeah.
in. It's a circle. It will always come back.
Yes, what
from where
goes
it
around
started.
comes
What goes
around.
around comes back around. So this is what is happening maybe
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Yes.
But with all of that, having said and done all that, the question still remains:
Yes.
how does this complicated generation
Yes.
take on this pressure of the most important examination of their lives,
It's upcoming.
which
Yeah.
is upcoming? How we have successfully established the kind of issues that this particular generation has. Undue amount of pressure. we're हमने क्लाइमेट का जो कंडीशन कर रखा है, इसका भी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी उन्हीं के कंधों पे है.
Huh.
There's so
Really,
much.
really, no, I agree. I agree.
हमने
I agree.
Yeah, we've completely made a mess out of it. Now these guys are responsible for all that. Now tell me, how will this generation tackle so much and still be able to give the most important examination and stay sane at this point in time?
So let me become more specific here,
Correct.
right? So I will maybe tell you what you could do, right? Because it's right there, knocking at your door. This is something that I usually tell my younger clients or even medical students. I have already spoken about striking a balance. I'll not go back there, but then I'll tell you what are the things you could do
Correct.
in the upcoming days before your exams. First is declutter, right? If we are exhausted, overwhelmed with too many things to study before exam, so suppose today, right now, I'm thinking I'm going to study this lesson from my English textbook. I don't require so many things on the table,
Very important
right?
point. Uh-huh.
I just need the textbook. I need a copy to make notes. I can have a glass of water. Everything on the table should go behind me, or you need to hide it somewhere. Because in in an era or in a phase where we have information overload, distraction, that can be created by this glass of water, this tissue box as well for me, right?
Correct.
I need to make it less minimalist, right? Minimalism. Let's practice that even on our study table. So decluttering, because more the option, too many things on the table, you're distracted. Make it less. Just your English textbook from where you're going. Read the matter, your copy, your water bottle, a pen. First is declutter. Second is we are supposed to understand what kind of a learner we are. Like I said, auditory, visual, sensory learners. Few people grasp and understand concepts from videos. Few of us like writing it down, reading, right? For me also, I think when I was doing my masters, by then educational institute started using PPT. I was used to chalk and board. I found it so difficult. I would print out those PPTs and then again mark and make my notes. I still suffer from that because that was my comfort, right? So children need to understand what is their comfort. No need to force yourself to just watch videos and learn or just go to the books. Figure out what kind of a learner you are, right? Use that more. That's the second thing I would say. Third thing is you need to also build a sequence of studying, right? No one likes studying. We also did not like, because anything on a human being, if it's a compulsion, we go away from it. We don't like to be compelled to do something, right? So we don't like studying, okay, agreed. So we need to now understand how do we make it interesting. Brains switch off, go into boredom only when it is monotonous. We need to create stimulation, right? For that, a sequence I would give out to you is start with something you already know, like revision, right? If you're sitting on the table, you're cribbing, yawning, and you've reached the table and you're like, exam is right there, so I have to study. So no one likes starting from something that is overwhelming, right? If I go to a house party, someone has called me, invited me to a house party, I would always look for someone I know to first talk to and then start a conversation and then get comfortable. Similarly, when you are sitting on your study table, start with something that you already know. You do something easy, right? Once you're done with that, the second in the sequence would be go to something that you're interested in. We have so many subjects. Let's say class 10, we have English, we have social sciences, science, this, that. Pick your favorite subject, the concept you're interested in, go for that in the second sequence. Lastly, I would suggest attempt something which is important from exam point of view and which is challenging for you, because that's going to fetch you marks. That's important. Keep it towards the end so that that content that you have taken towards the end becomes revision next day. So it goes to your long term and short term memory. That won't be overwhelming next day, because I've taken challenging material towards the end. Morning ko wohi agar I start reading, it's scanning, easy for me, right? So this is the sequence of study. Next would be, I would suggest, appeal actually, that we need breaks while studying. If you are studying, for a generation whose attention span is so less, we cannot force ourselves sitting there for 3 hours, 5 hours, and that's what the previous generation says. We sat for 6 hours at a stretch and we एकदम पूरा हमने कर लिया. नहीं करना है. Go by your attention span. If you feel that okay, you are not able to sit more than an hour, break in 45 minutes. Don't exhaust your entire battery. So हम लोग phone charge में पूरा battery exhaust करके नहीं डालते ना. 15% हो गया battery, whatever that charger, whatever we put connect the charger and then it's working. But when we completely drain a system, it's difficult for us to reboot. So it's important to break before you exhaust yourself. So 45 minutes, take a break, put a timer. For 10-15 minutes, go take your break. But breaks need not be social media, OTT. Breaks need to be real breaks.
Right. That's again a
Real
very
breaks. Like go make a cup of chai, go sit in the balcony.
Otherwise, your brain gets
Get
fried.
stimulated.
Yes, there's a rough lingo में हम उसे brain fry कह
हाँ,
सकते हैं,
maybe,
correct?
maybe.
क्योंकि your brain needs to be bored as well,
Yeah,
because that's
yeah,
where it
yeah.
relaxes.
Yes.
So we are not giving that space to our mind, and like हमेशा हमें कुछ ना कुछ चाहिए ही रहता
Yes,
है at
yes.
this point
So
in time.
maybe do something real in your breaks. Also, breaks cannot be for more than half an hour. Put a timer when you leave your study table.
Right.
Timer बज गया, alarm बज गया, come back after
need to
your
be
sensory break.
disciplined.
Yes. And you are going to be disciplined when you are creating obstacles also. Reminders. Now we have gadgets, we have human reminders. Our parents tell them that, you
Correct.
know, आप
Correct.
remind कर दो 10 बजे इतना बजे I have to go back. You go back, take that opportunity. Now, the next one that I want to share with Gen Z is that also study and understand your time of study. Right? It is not, if someone is studying late at night, does not mean everyone will grasp, understand, be attentive late at night.
Correct.
Maybe I am a person who is an early riser and I can take, you know, matter and content during early mornings. For someone, they can do it late at night. You are not losing your time. Smart work. If I feel that, you know, I'm a morning person, leave that time to maybe recall and memorize. Other times, don't force yourself to memorize and recall. Do writing, make your notes. You know, you're using your resources to maybe for the next day to revise. So use that for clerical work. The other times when your attention span is not there, you're not feeling like studying, scan through something and make notes during that time. Do clerical work. Other times when you are attentive, you're fresh, you feel I can, you know, take a risk of 1 hour, go ahead with that. Right? And the last thing, do your basics right. Amit, that is really important. Eating well, sleeping well, minimum of 6 hours of sleep. It's important even before exams. How will your brain, you know, suddenly start working next day because you have exams with no sleep? You have drained yourself. Sleep is important. Having a lot of water, hydration, very, very important. Not junk food. That's not going to help you. You'll upset your tummy. You'll feel the vomiting tendency. You are feeling anxious. That's going to worsen the condition. Doing basics right is important.
That will again distract you if you're not feeling well.
If your nervous system, if your body is not supporting you.
There's something that my father always used to tell me. I remember.
Doing basics right, very important. So maybe these are few things I can suggest.
That's so beautifully pointed out and presented. However, I read a paper which said or which claimed that it's good for your short-term memory if you're sleep deprived, but not your long-term. I mean, it works differently. Your long-term and short-term memory. So, is it true or would you debunk it?
Controversial.
Very controversial.
And also individual differences. You know, like in my own family itself, I see that there are few individuals of a certain generation who can actually work hard and hustle with 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. I don't function that way. I need more sleep because my sleep is faint. Right. So individual differences when it comes to memory also. Right. So for someone, you need to be fresh to take in that material or content. For someone with this amount of sleep, I can function. I think it is also conditioned over time. Right. So that.
Could you give us a few points on how mental health institutions like Ashwa's mental health help out students who are looking for assistance and how they could approach you and seek for help?
See, again, my institute, like most of, you know, is a pretty young, fresh institute, especially in our city, right? I'm very open to collaborating with youth and the younger generation. So I have been that kind of a mental health professional. That's the reason I had set up this institute in Guwahati, coming back after doing my work and then coming back to my hometown, right? So what I feel is that we are on social media, we are doing all relevant things that Gen Z, Alpha, Beta would want us to do to remain relevant. We are not a non-judgmental space. We are not a judgmental space, sorry. We are very, very non-judgmental.
Right.
We are empathetic. We're just a call away. And I really want, I would really love to do sessions, facilitate it for the authority figures as well. Teachers, parents, right? If they call us, my team is a young team, right? We always want to curate our workshops based on what you want. Just the call away, Amit. And I would really appeal to educational institutes here. I often mail them. Few people revert back, few people do not. Because now I think there are also mushrooming, mental health professionals are mushrooming, right? Institutes are mushrooming. So, of course, more to choose from. But from my side, since we are talking today in your podcast, I would really like to, let you know that we are very open to curating what you want to work on. And they can come to us. And there are so many people I'm working with from the younger generation, and I love it. I completely love it.
Negativity bias.
Negativity bias.
Top 5 pointers kids who are appearing for their boards should keep away from. Top 5 things.
Again, like I really do not like to be again black or white, so I will not say be away. I would say watch out, become mindful.
Watch out.
Let's regulate.
Alright.
So
1.
divide your time when you're using your phone, when it is not required. When I asked you to declutter when you're studying, don't need gadgets around that time, right? When you are consuming content from social media, if you're actually seeing few things that are disturbing, where they have mentioned trigger warning, things that are making you feel not okay, I also want you to deliberately, mindfully go out, look for things that make you feel good. That will balance.
So, no bad content or no difficult content.
Not no, but I would say if you have done it, because negativity, cognitive bias, you will get attracted towards
Correct.
it. I am saying if you have consumed that, ensure you consume something that
Good
also
as
makes
well.
you feel
Acha,
good.
acha. So
Right?
balance it out.
Yes. Third is spend time in real time, not real time. So apart from real, I think you need to indulge yourself in real life experiences. That's the next. The other one would be trying to strike a conversation with the other generation. We are not that bad.
With your parents.
With your parents, with your
First.
teachers,
Yes.
right? You can bring in concepts of mental health there as well.
Yeah. And then mental health professionals
Yes.
whenever you require
Yes,
them.
last one is we are there. Yeah.
It was such a lovely conversation with
Loved
you.
it,
Very
loved it,
enlightening.
yes.
Very enlightening. And right.
Thank
Alright
you
then.
so much for having me, being a part of this conversation. I think also, it was thought provoking for me. Many things I also got to learn from you, while I could also exchange my ideas. And I hope all generations would maybe view such good content. I think we are trying to create some kind of balance and difference through this. And I'm hopeful that we could have such conversations in the future as well, Amit. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.